Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And guess what? You did it. If there's anybody left still doing the plank challenge, today's your last day. So if you were shooting for 3 minutes, today is the day. Go for it. 3 minutes. And if you were shooting for 5 minutes, today's the day for you as well. 5 minutes. So good luck and thank you for participating in the plank challenge. If you're wondering, Rachel, what did you do? How far did you get? I got to 2 minutes and I had some back pain, which originated coincidentally. I don't know. Is that coincidentally? I don't think so. It just originated after I had my stroke. I came home from the hospital, and after laying in a hospital bed for 5 days, I got home and I walked my dog, and wouldn't you know, she just started running and yanked the leash and pulled a muscle in my back from my neck all the way down to my bum. And it's been 2.5 years and my back still hurts from that. I know, poor me. But the plank challenge has been helping it. It doesn't crack as much. Like when I move my back, it cracks on that side down at the bottom by my hip. So I'm pretty sure I pulled the muscle and I need to strengthen the muscle. In my experience as a 49-year-old, whenever I have pain in my life, in my body, that is actually anywhere, mentally, physically, when there's pain, I have to build the muscle in that area. So I have to actually work the area I mentioned, I don't know, the other day that I got hip pain from walking a Avon walk, and the solution at the physical therapy office was to lift weights with my hips. So I'm doing the same thing. That was selfishly kind of why I did the plank challenge, because I wanted to start addressing my back pain, and it's working. So I'm not going to stop. I'm at 2 minutes, but I'm just going to continue to grow it longer. So what I'm doing now, you know that I do my push-ups every other night before bed. So now on the nights I don't do push-ups, I do a plank for 2 minutes. So it's really helping me. And so that's my status on the plank challenge. So thank you again for participating in the listener challenge for February. So tomorrow we're going to start March's listener challenge. So stay tuned to see what exciting thing it is. I think I alluded to it a week or so ago. So I can't remember. If I'm being honest, I can't remember what I chose. So we'll find out tomorrow. I wrote it down. So anyway, today what I wanted to talk about is vestibular disorders and their impact on vision. And there's a couple reasons why. One, if you are an avid listener, you might recall that I have a appointment with an otolaryngologist on Wednesday. That's an ENT, ear, nose, and throat specialist. And I'm going because this is the recommendation of the neuro-ophthalmologist that I went to, because there's nothing wrong with my vision system. And yet, my symptoms are very much correlated with my vision. So, I've been looking into this vestibular stuff, and in doing so, I found a organization which is the Vestibular Disorders Association. and they just happen to be, because that's what happens in life, having a vestibular conference this week. So this is all, the planets are aligning for me, and that's what they do when I pay attention. So I'm going to be attending the virtual vestibular conference this week. It's Monday through Friday every day, hosted by the Vestibular Disorders Association. And the conference is called Life Rebalanced Live 2024. Now, I'm an overachiever, so I've already got my profile all set up. It's free to attend. And I've got my profile set up. I've got my agenda plugged in, and I'm ready for the first speaker, which will be at noon East Coast time tomorrow, which is Monday. So when you listen to this podcast, it's probably going to be tomorrow. Most of you listen the day after I record it, because I record it so late at night. So I wanted to talk a little bit about vestibular disorders, what I've learned about them, and what I expect to be happening at this conference this week. And I think this is just outstanding preparation for my doctor's appointment on Wednesday, where I am expecting to be tested for a vestibular disorder. And so I've got a lot of anticipation built up in me about this appointment. So I originally, just to remind you, I was originally given or prescribed, given an order for a neurotologist, and I can't go see the neurotologist directly. You have to go through hoops and all kinds of stuff in order to see the neurotologist. So this past week, I got a hearing test done. That's step number 1. This week, I see the otolaryngologist on Wednesday. That's step 2. I expect to be tested for vestibular. I think they do things like put you in a chair and move you around or something like that. This is what I heard. Excuse me, I have to cough. Excuse me. And then after that, depending on whether I can be diagnosed with this particular specialist, or if I need to then be ordered to go to the neurotologist, that's what will happen. So, but I feel pretty confident that this is what's wrong with me after all the things that I've read about it. So, vestibular disorders cause a variety of disorienting and debilitating symptoms. So your vestibular system is your balance system. And although all of my issues seem to be with my vision, there is nothing wrong with my vision. I've gone to a ophthalmologist, neuro-ophthalmologist, vision therapy. Now, there is something wrong with my vision. It's just the system itself. There is nothing physically wrong with it. Like, they don't see anything wrong with it. So that's why I've been ordered to go check out my vestibular system. So when you have a vestibular disorder, it can cause things like loss of coordination, vertigo, and dizziness. So, when you get those little crystals in your ears, they say, and they get all out of whack, and then you lay down, all of a sudden everything starts spinning. That's your vestibular system. And there's lots of different parts to your vestibular system. I'm not going to pretend like I know all those parts. But they said that they checked my hearing to make sure that there's nothing damaged inside my ears that are causing it. So that was really just to check off that thing, check off the beginning of a long list of stuff that we're going to be testing. So at this vestibular conference, there's going to be live presentations. There'll be a presentation every day at noon. And then after each presentation, there is another hour of a patient panel where a couple patients will share about their experience with the disorder that's covered that day. And then there's also like an online portal. Like I said, I created my own profile, and I've already gone into one of the community chats where it's for people who had to lose their jobs because of this health issue. So I went in there and introduced myself, and I think there's going to be different like panels or I guess like meetings. I don't know what they're calling them, but where a bunch of people in the community plan to meet at the same time virtually and discuss whatever topic it is. So that would be having to walk away from a job. So I thought that might be interesting for me. And I think more of those will unfold over the week. So I'm looking forward to that. And then there's also a lot of Q&A. So because it's my vision that is an issue, and I'm not totally transferred over to voiceover, I'm going to be a bit limited in how much I can participate in the community and Q&A. But it might be a good area for me to play around with voiceover while I'm in this panel. Although I don't want to accidentally send a message to the whole community, who knows. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to get the most that I can with the limitations that I have with my vision. So the field that is focused on in the conference is the exact same as what I'm going in for my appointment for on Wednesday. Otolaryngology, or ENT, ear, nose, and throat. Neurotology, which I didn't even know existed until I got ordered to go to one. But now I see it everywhere. And otology. Yeah, otology. Neurotology and otology. So I think oto is ears, and that's why that's in there. So I wanted to explain a little bit my symptoms again, in case it resonates with anybody. And I haven't talked about them for in depth for a while. So in case anybody runs across this episode and you can relate in. So imagine your vision can't keep up with your surroundings. So I often find myself like putting my head down and closing my eyes because it's too much. Like my environment is too much. Even when I'm just sitting still. Like right now, I'm in my closet. I'm in my closet because lifetime listeners know that I record in my closet now. Good soundproofing in here. But even like in my closet, it's all still in here. I still feel like I don't even know how to explain it, like I'm floating. So objects are just too difficult to look at for several seconds before I have to shut my eyes. And once in a while, it hasn't happened a lot over the past couple years, but once in a while, my visual field will jiggle. I'll like look at something and it's jiggling, vibrating almost, but that doesn't happen very often. And then I very often get intermittent sharp pains in my head and behind my eyes. I have chronic daily migraines every single day. I haven't not had a headache since June 4th of 2021. And it feels like I have 100 rubber bands that are wrapped around my head, wrapped around like right through the center of my head. And the more that I'm exposed to things that move or things that are bright or patterns, if I stand in front of a window that has a shade drawn and it's one of those like, what do you call them? I can't think of the word, but blinds. Yeah. And the blinds are open, so it's like stripes going down the window. Like, ugh, I can't look at that. That makes me sick. And I've seen different kinds of artwork on the wall that makes me sick and that kind of thing. So, I get eye strain if I look too long at something, and too long means several seconds. And then I may get eye pain behind my eyes, and I get hot flashes like, oh boy. I mean, it's every 5 minutes I may have had 2 hot flashes. It's and then I'll go for a couple hours and not have one at all. It's really 100% associated with my other symptoms. So when the rubber bands start squeezing my head, I have a hot flash. And I also sometimes feel a lot of pressure building up in my head. And that's when the rubber bands and the eye pain and all of that, it's all associated. I will, if I don't close my eyes and get rid of whatever stimuli it is that's causing all of it, I'll start getting really nauseous. So for people with vestibular disorders, if this is in fact vestibular, now I'm comparing myself to vestibular because that's the best I've been able to relate to anything. You guys that have been with me for 8 months during this podcast know that I started this podcast because I was desperately seeking to find people that are like me, people that have the same symptoms as me. And this is the closest I've gotten. These people that have vestibular disorders. And they're all different, of course. So it's difficult to diagnose. But some of the people have exactly what I have. So I feel I couldn't be more confident about this, that we're going in the right direction. So we should all be cheering. So, yeah, these symptoms I've been complaining about since June of 2021. You know, I've been talking about it on the podcast for the past 8 months since June of 2023. But these symptoms, I haven't been able to find the answers. So I've been going to lots of different specialists. So this is our next avenue. So for people with vestibular disorders, this is just a daily reality, just like what I'm dealing with. And they can have trouble focusing, just like me, focusing visually and focusing mentally. That seems to be correlated for me as well. People experience vertigo. I would not classify what I have as vertigo. Mine more feels um, like motion sickness than vertigo. And a sense of imbalance. I do find myself a lot more off balance than I've ever been. And I do find myself to be a bit more clumsy lately. Lately, meaning the past couple years. And of course, my migraines and other numerous symptoms. So, what I still have this, my favorite article that I have found talked about visual challenges associated with vestibular disorders. And it talked about how many people seek care from eye doctors, and only to find out that these exams that they give you don't capture the root of the problem. They'll do a tracking test. So they'll put like something, whether it's their finger or a pen or something like that, and they'll move it in front of you and see if you can track it. Well, I can track it once in a while. Depending on how quickly they move it or slowly they move it, and they all move it differently, my eyes will jet away from whatever it is because it will cause that nausea, like my symptoms will kick in. The pain, I guess. I don't know, it's hard to say. Dizziness, a discomfort. We'll call it discomfort. They'll start moving their finger enough that it'll cause discomfort in my head, and my eyes will just naturally try to avoid the trigger, which is their finger. But like I said, so many doctors that I've seen over the past 2.5 years have done the tracking test in front of my eyeball, and they all do it differently. There has been no standard for how quickly or how far from the left to the right they move their finger. And depending on how they do it, I will react differently. My eyes and my head react differently. So I think that that's interesting and something I want to make sure that I tell the ENT. So most of the time, these eye exams are conducted with the patient's head being still. Obviously, we're not shaking our heads around. But this can miss the visual instability of the individuals that they experience during head motion. So it's a complex issue, and it goes beyond just your eyes. It links very closely, your vestibular system links very closely to your visual system. And the ophthalmologist was explaining this to me, how when you're learning how to walk, you're using your vision as a kind of like, my head's hurting, so I'm starting to have a problem finding my words. You use your vision in order to learn how to walk, right? It's you're regulating your balance with your vision, and so it's correlated basically. And So I don't necessarily feel different, better, or worse when my head is moving. Maybe. I don't know, really. I haven't paid attention to. I feel like I don't move my head as much. More than anything, I usually just put my head down. Like I'm constantly trying to put my head down because I want to eliminate as much of my environment as possible. So I'm like just looking at the ground. Except when I'm walking, then I have to look up because the ground's moving too fast for me to look at it while I'm walking. So these are just some of the things that I deal with on a daily basis. So at this conference that starts tomorrow, again, it's called the Life Rebalanced Live 2020 Vestibular Virtual Vestibular Conference. Here's some of the stuff that's going to be covered, and this is why it seems very interesting to me. So they're going to talk about some of these topics: how to live with or manage dizziness. I have a hard time calling what I have dizziness. It doesn't seem necessarily like dizziness. Dizziness to me is like I'm about to fall over, but it kind of feels like that. It's really hard to explain. I'm calling it dizziness because I think that is the best word for it. It feels like my head is in the clouds, It feels like I was thinking of this when I was taking a nap this afternoon. When I laid down to take a nap, I was like, have you ever gone to a concert and you stand in front of, you're one of the unfortunate souls that the only place to stand is in front of the big, gigantic speaker? And it's like blasting and it is so loud that it hurts your head and you have to like stick your fingers in your ears or your head feels like it's going to explode. That's what my head feels like, but it's all the time. So sometimes when I'm doing this podcast, I want to whisper because my own voice is too loud for me. It's hurting my head. It's really weird, but anyway, that's what's going on. So that is my dizziness. That's what I'm classifying as dizziness, that feeling like I just got off a roller coaster that I rode, like the Grizzly at King's Dominion. Like I just rode the Grizzly 10 times in a row. And that rickety, like it shakes your head all over the place. And got off the Grizzly and you're just like, okay, everybody shh. You know, because it's just so much. Anyway, that's what I'm calling dizziness. So they're going to be talking about living with or managing dizziness, restoring quality of life. That would be awesome if I could do that. They'll be talking about vestibular migraines. That's a thing. So that might be what I have. My daily chronic migraines might be vestibular migraines. They're going to talk about something called PPPD, which is persistent postural perceptual dizziness. It's a type of chronic dizziness, and it's usually described as a constant sensation of floating or rocking without nausea. So this really resonates with me. I actually used that word floating earlier. It's worse when standing, when you're tired or towards the end of the day, and when in complex visual environments like grocery stores or crowds. So this really seems like I can identify with it. But I wouldn't necessarily say I need to be in a complex visual environment like a grocery store or crowd. Mine will happen, like today I had a bunch of women come over and we were all sitting around in my living room, and just that was complex enough. Moving my head, like looking from throughout the room, at each person. There was only 5 people sitting with me, but changing my vision from one person to the other constantly is too uncomfortable for me. So a lot of the times I just closed my eyes and sat and listened. They're going to talk about central vestibular disorders, and these stem from dysfunction in the brain or central nervous system, affecting the processing of vestibular signals, leading to symptoms like vertigo, imbalance, and spatial disorientation. I don't know that I have spatial disorientation. That seems a little different than what I have, or a lot different than what I have. They're going to talk about how vestibular disorders are diagnosed. And unfortunately, it says that it requires multiple disciplines working together. And that seems like what's happening with me. I'm starting to at least get some more, more and more specialists they don't seem like they're working together necessarily. I go to one and they're like, nope, this isn't what you have. Then I go to another one, nope, this isn't what you have. And then I have my neurologist who's like, why don't we prescribe you this? Oh, that didn't work. Why don't we prescribe you this? So just keep going, just keep plugging away. So vestibular disorders usually require multiple disciplines working together and are based on an individual's personal symptoms and situations. So I can understand that, just as complex. A vestibular disorder that stems from dysfunction in the brain, it's got to be very complex. Anything that has to do with the brain is just, I don't feel like they've really figured out our brains yet. I thought they had us figured out, but not yet. Okay, they're going to talk about chronic imbalance resulting from what is called bilateral vestibular hypofunction and BVH. And they're going to talk about neurologic rehabilitation for vestibular disorders. So a little bit about what maybe I could look forward to is that this kind of rehabilitation aims at improving functional abilities and quality of life for individuals suffering with vestibular disorders. So what they try to do is optimize your vestibular function by trying targeted exercises, which sounds terrible to me. I think about like exercises for my eyes is just, it just makes me nauseous even thinking about it. Balance training, habituation techniques, and sensory integration therapy. I feel like the only way to get better is to challenge this discomfort. I feel like that's what they're going to tell me. And I'm just like, that is going to suck big time. It's going to be terrible. But through tailored treatment plans and ongoing support, this neurologic rehabilitation can offer us the opportunity to regain independence and improve quality of life. See, right there, I just got a really sharp pain in my head. It's like in the upper front side of my head. It's still happening over my right eye. So anyway, you never know when it's going to happen. Anyway, so that's what's happening. I'm looking forward to finding out more information this week. I think it's going to be a big week for us. And for those of you who are here because you get inspired by conversations and discussions about not drinking and staying sober and stuff, I hope that this type of conversation, when I shift over some days to talk about my symptoms with my post-stroke, with my vision and my chronic migraines, I'm hoping that listeners recognize that what I'm doing here is I'm fighting for myself. Like, let's back up and look at the whole picture. I'm a recovering alcoholic. First and foremost, if I don't remain sober, none of this matters. I won't live. I absolutely won't live if I don't stay sober. And I absolutely won't have the desire to get better if I don't stay sober. The desire to get better physically from all of these symptoms that I'm struggling with. So I'm hoping as I shift back and forth between the two topics, since I'm in dual recovery, that it provides a wealth of insight for people on both ends, who are either a recovering alcoholic or recovering from a stroke. I feel like there's a lot of valuable information just in listening to somebody just continue to fight. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm here. I'm just going to continue to show up, and I'm so happy that you're willing to show up too and be a part of my recovery. So thanks for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.